Hello, Tony here, back on my channel once more with another deck profile. As you know, Blazing Vortex has been out for quite a few days now, and with it comes a plethora of new deck options for me to showcase. And while I'm still trying to locate some of the more high-end stuff for some deck profiles, I'd figure I'd spend this week doing a profile on one of the more budget but still fan-favorite options to come out of this set in the new Metaphos support. Now, it's been a while since Metaphos was in the spotlight, so for those who may need a refresher, Metaphos is a fusion-based pendulum archetype consisting of fire psychic monsters, with the core mechanic of this deck being using their pendulum effects to destroy each other to not only get their spell and traps, but also fill up the extra deck for a pendulum summon. From there, these fusion spells will then use this pendulum summon monsters to produce high and powerful fusion monsters, of which they can then employ a beatdown strategy to win the game. Now, at the time of Metaphos' original release, the pendulum mechanic was a vastly different thing. Previously, you could pendulum summon as many monsters as you chose to any zones you chose from the X deck without limit. With the release of Master Rule 4 and its revision, however, the pendulum mechanic has seen a severe neutering, with being only limited to the extra monster zone as well as zones that link monsters point to. And in turn, the Metaphos' greatest strength has actually become their greatest bane, with the filling of their X deck through their self-destruction effects actually being a limiting factor in their ability to produce efficient fusion summons. That is, until Blazing Vortex. While the new support does not improve upon Metaphos' pendulum mechanic like Electromite did, it does do leaks for its fusion mechanic instead. Now the deck is capable of producing fusions at a much more economic rate than previously allowed, even allowing this deck to summon out fusions off of a single Pendulum 1 from the X deck. This in turn allows this deck to employ a much more efficient fusion tempo strategy geared around summoning Metaphos fusions on either player's turns to pressure the opponent and then beat them down, something that I hope to showcase as I get through the deck profile. Anyway, I've drawn on enough. Without further ado, let's get into the deck profile. Blazing straight into our monster lineup, we start off with a series of normal pendulum monsters consisting of scales 1s and 8s that comprise the majority of the Metaphos archetype. For our low scales, we have the Scale 1 Level 4 Metaphos Gold Driver, as well as the Scale 1 Level 3 Metaphos Silver. For our high scales, we have the Scale 8 Level 7 Metaphos Volflame, as well as the Level 2 Scale 8 Metaphos Steelin. Now, since these monsters are normal monsters, none of these cards will have actual effects while they're monsters on the field. However, as pendulum scales, each of these Metaphos monsters shares the signature effect to target one face-up card on the field, destroyed, to set one Metaphos spell or trap card directly from the deck. And it's through this signature ability that the Metaphos strategy of destruction is abused the hardest. Due to the fact that this can target any face-up card, comboing this card with other cards that get their effects off of destruction allows this deck to not only generate massive advantage, but set up for their fusion plays as well. This, combined with the fact that all these Metaphos monsters are normal monsters, thus allowing them to take advantage of some of the best normal monster support in the game, allows this deck to consistently get the pieces necessary to build powerful fusion boards on their own. Moving on from there, we go on to the Metaphos effect monsters, of which we only play 2 out of the 3 available. We have our 3 Metaphos Bismugear for our Scale 8, as well as our 3 Metaphos Melcaster for our Scale 1. Both of these monsters have the signature Metaphos Pendulum Scale effect to target one face-up card on the field, destroy it to set a Metaphos spell or trap. But they also have an additional monster effect that triggers whenever they're destroyed. Bismugear here, upon being destroyed, will allow you to search for one Metaphos monster on the end phase of that turn. Melcaster, on the other hand, when destroyed, will allow you to add back one Metaphos monster directly from your X deck. However, you can no longer use that Metaphos card's effects for the rest of the turn. In addition to being more names that can activate the Metaphos' signature destruction effect to grab your spell and trap cards, both of these Metaphos monsters also have benefits upon being destroyed by other Metaphos cards, which make your plays easier. Bismugear here, grabbing you a Metaphos monster on the end phase, either allows you to grab a follow-up scale to build a pendulum play on your following turn, or more importantly, allows you to use that monster as a fusion material on your opponent's turn to potentially summon out a disruptive Metaphos monster. Inversely, Melcaster's ability to grab back a Metaphos monster from your X deck can also be used to complete scales, but should you already have complete scales, also provides you an additional piece for your pendulum summon or your fusion summon plays. Thus, both these cards improve your ability to perform pendulum and fusion plays, making them both very essential for your deck's best combos. Now, due to the fact that Metaphos is a pendulum-based archetype, it's very easy to mix in something like Magician's Soul or the Endymion engine to produce your average Steven Trifanovsky pendulum best deck board of 4 or 5 negates. However, I feel like those kind of decks take advantage of the pendulum mechanic as a whole and less of Metaphos' unique abilities as a fusion pendulum deck. Thus, we're going to be avoiding it for this deck profile. In place of it, however, we're actually playing 3 Plague Spreader Zombie as well as 3 Sangan, with Sangan's express purpose to grab out one of your Crusadia Arborea. The reason we're playing this engine is because all these cards are 1-card Halka Firebrax plays, which the Halka Firebrax can be used to grab one of our 2 Despot 001. Linking the Despot 001 and the Krishan Halka Firebacks, we can then produce our playmaker for the deck in our Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon, which actually has some unique synergy with the rest of the Metaphos cards. Now, it may surprise you that Auroradon would have any synergy with a Metaphos deck, especially since Auroradon is a synchro-focused card, while your Metaphos cards are more fusion-focused. However, there's actually a lot of unintended synergy between these cards, primarily in Auroradon's ability to summon 3 tokens. See, while the tokens can be used to activate Auroradon's effects to further combos, it can also be used as destruction fodder for your Metaphos effects. Since you're destroying the tokens and not your own Metaphos monsters, you're actually retaining more Metaphos monsters in your hand for a larger pendulum summon. Furthermore, one of the more important things is that those tokens are normal monsters. See, one of your premier forms of disruption on your opponent's turn is a card called Metaphos Alkahis, which one of the fusion materials for it is a normal monster that the Auroradon tokens fit the bill for. Thus, by actually resolving Auroradon's effect to summon 3 tokens, you actually have the ability to produce upwards of 3 Alkahis directly off of just the tokens and a Metaphos monster alone, thus producing some very powerful disruption on your opponent's turn. On top of the Despot 001 combo, it's very easy to end on things like double Alkahis to 1 Herald of Arclight, which can be very powerful in disrupting your board for an OTK on the following turn. Moving on into the spells, we start off with the 3 fusion spells that define the Metaphos archetype in the 1 Metaphos Fusion, the 1 Full Metaphos Fusion, and the newly added 1 Pair Metaphos Fusion. Each of these fusion spells allow you to fusion summon for Metaphos Fusion monsters with varying benefits. Metaphos Fusion here allows you to fusion summon for a Metaphos Fusion monster using monsters from your hand or field as material, and comes with the additional benefit that it could shuffle itself back from the graveyard into the deck to draw a card, not only netting you more advantage, but also putting itself back in the deck to be reset by your other Metaphos monsters for continued fusion plays. Full Metaphos Fusion here, like Metaphos Fusion, allows you to fusion summon for a Metaphos monster using monsters from your hand or field as material. However, unlike Metaphos Fusion, it cannot shuffle itself back from the graveyard to the deck. However, what it can do is that it's a quick play spell, meaning that it can be activated on your opponent's turn to summon out a fusion monster for disruption. Pair Metaphos Fusion, however, is the most unique of the 3. Unlike Full Metal and Metaphos Fusion, which only allow you to use materials from the hand or field, Pair Metaphos Fusion allows you to use materials from face-up from the X deck as well, thus allowing you to use materials that you may have already used up in prior fusion summons for it, making it the most economical of the 3 fusions. Moving on into the rest of the spells, we're playing 3 Unexpected Die. Unexpected Die allows me to special summon out a level 4 or lower normal monster from my deck if I control no monsters. Since a majority of my Metaphos monsters are normal monsters, I actually have a plethora of targets for Unexpected Die. Furthermore, through the destruction effect of my Metaphos Pendulum Scales, it's also very easy to clear my field multiple times to activate multiple Unexpected Die in one turn. Going on from there, we're playing the 1 Emergency Teleport since all our Metaphos monsters are psychic. We're playing the 1 1-for-1 to either summon out a Bismugear or a Despot 001 for a Halka Firebrax play. We're playing the 1 Instant Fusion, which because we are playing level 5 or lower fusion monsters, which you can summon out. And then we're also playing 2 Painful Choice, which not only dumps Metaphos monsters into the graveyard to be brought back with some of our fusion monsters, but also searches us a Metaphos monster to be activated in the scale to activate its effect as well. Finally, rounding off the deck, we're playing 2 Metaphos Combination. Combination is a continuous trap card which, while face up, should you fusion summon a monster, you can target 1 Metaphos monster with a level lower than that fusion summon monster and summon it back from your graveyard. Furthermore, should it be sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 Metaphos monster from your deck to the hand. Now, despite being a trap in a Turbo Fusion deck, Metaphos Combination actually has a lot of crazy synergy with the rest of your fusion strategy. On your turn, should you be fusing monsters from your hand, Metaphos combination is a nice way to recover back some of those resources for follow-up fusion plays. On your opponent's turn, you could even fuse away your lower level fusions to summon out higher level fusions, of which your combination can then use to bring back those lower level fusions for further disruption. Furthermore, that effective search upon being sent from the field to the graveyard can be abused in a number of ways. Not only can you pop it while face up with one of your Metaphos cards to get a free search into another combo piece, you could also blow it face down with something like maybe your Rordon to immediately get a search on your first turn to build a bigger board as well. Moving on into the X deck, we start off with our two full Metalfoes Alkahest. Outside of being a really pointed reference to Full Metal Alchemist, Full Metalfoes Alkahest is your premier form of disruption in the deck. Requiring a Metaphos monster and a normal monster, on your opponent's turn it could target one of your opponent's monsters and equip it to this card, gaining defense equal to the attack of the equipped monster. It's important to note that this effect is not a hard once per turn, which means multiple Alkahests can activate to equip multiple monsters per turn. And what makes that nice is the fact that since it is a Metaphos monster itself, you can easily fuse it and another normal monster into another Alkahest, making multiple chains of Alkahest disruptions. Moving on from there, we're playing two Metaphos Methylene. If Alkahest is your form of disruption, Methylene can be considered your form of playmaker. Methylene can target two of your Metaphos cards in the graveyard to shuffle it back into the deck to bounce one card on the field. Not only does this recycle used up Metaphos fusions that you can shuffle back, but it also bounces your opponent's cards or sometimes your own Metaphos monsters to trigger their effects again. Furthermore, should Methylene leave the field and go to the graveyard, it can special summon one Metaphos monster from your graveyard or face up from your X deck as long as it's a Pendulum monster. This, along with the fact that it can trigger when it's linked away, allows you to use this card also as a free form of link climbing to build link boards as well. Wrapping up the fusion monsters, we have the Metaphos Adamantite, mostly used as an instant fusion target to summon out another random Metaphos monster. However, it can also be used to make our following monster in the Parametaphos Azalthus. Parametaphos Azalthus is a Pendulum Fusion monster that requires a Metaphos monster and another fusion monster, and when it's special summoned, can target one card on the field, shuffle back two face-up Metaphos Pendulum monsters in your X deck to destroy that card. Mind you, this effect triggers whenever it's special summoned, not just fusion summoned, something that becomes relevant due to the fact that it is a Pendulum monster as well. Furthermore, as a Pendulum monster, should it be destroyed, it can go into your scale, where as a scale, should another Metaphos card be destroyed, you can target one face-up card on the field and destroy it. Now, while the Pendulum Scale effect of Azalthus is indeed very powerful, especially when combined with another Metaphos Pendulum monster in popping one of your own Metaphos cards to pop one of your opponent's cards, the most important aspect of Parametaphos Azalthus is the fact that it is a Pendulum Fusion monster. Should it be destroyed and it not go into the scale, it can instead go face up into your X deck, where it can be Pendulum Summoned again. In a deck that consistently needs to have a beater where your Pendulum Summons previously could not do that, Parametaphos Azalthus being able to be Pendulum Summoned allows you to provide a consistent beater and removal, something that something like Alkahest or Methylene could not provide. Furthermore, due to the fact that you are playing things like Cross Sheep, it also means that you have an easy way to access a fusion monster without the need to actually directly fusion summon one. Moving past our fusions, we go into the links, starting off with our one link spider that we can make using any of our Metaphos normal monsters to special summon out an additional Metaphos normal monster. We have the one Salamangreat Almirage that we can commonly link a Sangan or a Plague Spreader into to start off our Halka-Firebax combos. We have the aforementioned Christian Halka-Firebax to access our Mecha Fan and Beast Aurodon, as well as the one Cross Sheep. Due to the fact that we are playing a fusion deck, Cross Sheep can be very useful for us to do some very unique combos, most likely to make our one Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess, as an additional negate that we can end on. Finally, rounding out the X deck, we have a series of synchro monsters that we can make using the tuners available in our deck and any of the Metaphos or tokens that we spawn as part of our deck combos. We have the one Herald of Arclight, something that we can make using a Metaphos Stealing and a Plague Spreader, or a Metaphos Silvered and Despot 001, or token and Despot 001. We have the F.A. Dawn Drexler, something we can make using any of our level 3s as well as a Despot 001, as well as one Borlode Savage Dragon, something that we can make using a Despot 001 and a Metaphos Volflame or Melcaster. Now it's at this point that we once again reach the comp up opponent of our deck profile, and unlike the recent deck profiles that I've done, which are mostly just test hands, this one will include not only a test hand but also some set combos as well. While Metaphos is generally a deck that can build combos out of whatever it opens, there are set combos that it can produce off of opening the Halka-Firebax engine, something that I do want to showcase. Anyway, the deck has been shuffled up, let's do a test hand, let's do some set combos, and let's just get into it. Starting with our set combos, the first set combo that I'm going to showcase is a 2-card combo that requires that I open any Metaphos monster, as well as any way to go into our Christian Haka-Fibrax combo. In this case, let's say Sangan. What's going to happen here is I'm going to normal summon the Sangan and then immediately link it away to summon out my Salamangreat Almirage, in doing so triggering my Sangan effect to grab my Christian Arborea. From there, I'm going to special summon out the Arborea and then link it and the Almirage away, without Arborea being a tuner, to summon out my Christian Haka-Fibrax. Haka-Fibrax now triggering to grab my Despot 001. From there, I'm going to link the Despot 001 and the Haka-Fibrax away, both as machines, to summon out my Mecha Phantom Beast Aurorodon, in doing so triggering its on summon effect to summon 3 tokens to the field. From there, since I summoned 2 machines simultaneously, I can also bring back the 1 Despot 001 from my graveyard. From there, I'm then going to synchro the level 3 token as well as the level 1 Despot 001 to summon out the first of our negations in a Herald of Arclight. Going from there, we're then going to activate the Metaphos Gold Driver in the scale and then activate its effect to destroy one of those tokens to set a Metaphos combination to our Spell and Trap Zone. Now, from here, we're going to then activate the effect of our Aurorodon's first effect, tributing itself to target the combination, destroying it, in doing so triggering combination's effect to add any other Metaphos monster to our deck from our hand. Now in this case, I'm going to add something like a Metaphos Bismugear, but realistically it could be any Metaphos monster of your choosing. From there, we're then going to activate the Metaphos Bismugear in our scale and then activate Bismugear's effect to destroy the Gold Driver, of which it will then go face up into our extra deck. And in doing so, we're then going to set a Parametaphos Fusion from our deck to the field. Then we're going to immediately activate the Parametaphos Fusion, fusing the Gold Driver face up in our extra deck as well as the remaining token to summon out our remaining disruption in our Metaphos Alkahest, of which we will then be able to pass our turn to our opponent with. Now, doing a quick head count here, off of the 2 cards we had with the start of this combo, we ended up on 3 cards, with 2 of these cards being disruption on our opponent's turn. We have the 1 Herald of Arclight, whose Floodgate effect at the current moment is enough to stop things like Virtual World or Drytron in their tracks. Furthermore, its negation gives us an additional layer of protection against everything else. Furthermore, should your opponent attempt to summon anything that could threaten the Arclight, we can always equip it to our Metaphos Alkahest as an additional form of protection as well, thus giving us, off of the 2 cards we open, 2 forms of disruption as well as a Floodgate on top of the 3 cards that we may open in an opening hand. Moving on to our second set combo, this one is actually a 3-card combo that's an extension of the first combo we just showcased. Instead of requiring that you open 1 Metaphos monster, you're actually required to open 2 Metaphos monsters for this combo, on top of the means to access our Christian Haka-Fibrax engine. From once again, we're going to normal summon the Sangan and then link it away to summon out the Almirage. Almirage now summoning the triggering the Sangan effect to search for our Crusader Arborea. Arborea will once again special summon itself to the zone that Almirage points to, and then linking the Almirage and the Crusader Arborea away to summon our Christian Haka-Fibrax. Haka-Fibrax will once again trigger to summon out our Despot 001, of which we will then link those 2 away to summon out our Mecha Phantom Beast Aurorodon. Aurorodon will then trigger, allowing us to summon 3 Mecha Phantom Beast tokens to the field, as well as bring back our Despot 001. We're going to, like before, synchro the 001 and 1 of the tokens away to summon out our Herald of Arclight, and then we're going to activate the Gold Driver in the scale to blow up one of the other tokens to set the Metaphos combination. Like before, we're going to tribute the Aurorodon away to target our combination, blowing it up to once again search another Metaphos monster from our deck to the hand. In this case, we're looking for one that can complete the scales for a Pendulum Summon. Since I already have a scale 1 in both my hand, I'm going to add a scale 8 in Bismugear once again. We're going to activate the Bismugear and then activate Bismugear's effect to destroy the Gold Driver to input it to the top of our extra deck, of which we will then set once again our Parametaphos Fusion. Now this is where things get a little different though. We're then going to activate the Silvered in the following scale, and instead of just making a fusion here and now, we're actually going to Pendulum Summon out the Metaphos Gold Driver onto our extra monster zone. From there, we'll then activate the effect of our Silver to blow up the Bismugear to then set another Metaphos spell card, in this case being our full Metaphos Fusion. From there, we will then activate the effect of our Parametaphos Fusion, fusing the token away on top of the Bismugear in our scale to summon out the first of our 2 Metaphos Alkahest, of which we will then pass our turn to our opponent. Mind you, we also, at the end phase, since we did blow up a Bismugear, we also do get an additional search, but that is negligible to the rest of the combo. Now this board may seem just as threatening as the last board, but I can guarantee you it's a little more than just that. Like before, we end up with the 3 cards we had before in our Herald of Arclight, a Pendulum Scale, and a Algahist, but on top of that we now also have an additional normal monster as well as a full Metaphos fusion set here. And that's becoming relevant because after we do take the first monster using our first Algahist, we can then proceed to activate the effect of our full Metaphos fusion, fusing away the Algahist as well as the remaining gold driver to summon out a second Algahist from our X deck. Since Algahist is not once returned, that new Algahist will then once again be able to equip another monster, essentially facilitating 3 disruptions off of the 3 cards we opened with, and still having a means to protect our Herald of Arclight. Furthermore, given the fact that we did blow up a Bismugear, technically you can search for something to complete your scale, which on the following turn gives you the means to pendulum summon out the monster you just fused away for follow-up plays and an OTK. On to our test hand. The hand that we're going to be working with today is going to include 1 Metaphos Stealing, 1 Metaphos Volflame, 1 Sangan for our Halqifibrax starter, combined with the 2 Metaphos monsters we already know what we can at least produce. We have another Metaphos Bismugear as well as a Metaphos Silver. Okay, just by the fact that we've opened the Halqifibrax starter with the 2 Metaphos monsters, we know that we can end on double Algahist, 1 Herald of Arclight. However, given the fact that we've opened also additionally 2 more Metaphos monsters, I actually think there's a different line of play available to us that I want to mess around with. Starting off, I'm going to normal summon the Sangan, then once again link it away to summon out my Salamangreat Almirage, of which I'll then use Sangan's effect to search for my Crusadia Arborea. From there, I'm going to special summon the Arborea and then link it and the Almirage away to summon out my Christian Halqifibrax, of which instead of summoning Despot 001, I'm actually going to go a different route and summon out my Plague Spreader Zombie. I'm going to link the Plague Spreader Zombie and the Christian Halqifibrax away, this time to summon out a Cross Sheep instead. See, I want to do some fusion plays, and that's the general idea of what I'm going with right now. Now, since we opened 3 scale 8s and only 1 scale 1, we're going to blow some of these scale 8s up and put it into the X deck. We're going to activate the Steel and activate the Volflame, and activate Volflame's effect to blow up the Steel to put a face up into our X deck. In doing so, we're also then going to set a pair Metaphos fusion from our deck to the field. Then we're going to activate the Bismugear and then blow up the Volflame, this time to set a normal Metaphos fusion from our deck to the field. From there, I'm going to activate the Silver, now having a scales 1 to 8. We're going to pendulum summon to the 2 zones that Cross Sheep points to, our 2 Metaphos monsters in our extra deck. From there, we're then going to activate Silver's effect to blow up the Bismugear, not forgetting to trigger its effect, to then set another Metaphos card. In this case, let's say it's going to be our final fusion and our full Metaphos fusion. From there, we're going to activate the pair Metaphos fusion, now fusing the Bismugear face up in our X deck, as well as one of the Metaphos monsters on the field to summon out our Metaphos Methylene. In doing so, since we special summoned it to a zone that our Cross Sheep points to, Cross Sheep will now trigger to bring back the Bismugear that we sent to the graveyard off of pair Metaphos back onto the field. From there, we're then going to activate the normal Metaphos fusion, now fusing the Methylene as well as the Volflame on our field to summon out the first of our disruptions in our Metaphos Algahist. Now, since we did so, once again, our Methylene will trigger, allowing us to special summon out the Metaphos Stealing to our field. From there, what we can do is that we're then going to activate the effect of our Metaphos fusion to shuffle it back into our deck to draw a random card. However, ironically enough, this card actually does not matter. See, what we're actually going to do is we're going to actually stack this card to the top of our deck once more to bring back our Plague Spreader Zombie, of which we will then link it along with the Bismugear as well as the Cross Sheep away to summon out a 3-negate Appaloosa. And it's on this board that we then end our turn to with triggering Bismugear's effect to grab the missing scale 8 in another Bismugear, and then passing our turn to our opponent. Now, this board is very similar to the previous boards we made, but with a few differences in how we're going to play out our opponent's turn. Like before, we have the 1 Algahist along with a 3-negate in our Appaloosa. The only difference now is that when we go into the fusion with our full Metaphos fusion, we're going to do something a little different. Like before, we can negate with our 3 negates, we can equip with our Algahist, but once we've equipped with our Algahist, we can then go activate full Metaphos fusion, this time fusing the Stealing as well as the Metaphos Algahist, using the Algahist as a fusion monster this time to summon out our newly minted pair Metaphos Azalthus. When pair Metaphos Azalthus is then summoned, we're then going to trigger its effect to shuffle back 2 of our Metaphos monsters, in this case, let's say the Bismugear and the Stealing, to destroy another card. See, the reason why we're making Azalthus in this case instead of another Alkes is the fact that Alkes doesn't have a lot of damage. However, Parametaphos Azalthus at least is a 2500 beater, which when destroyed will go into the scale. From there, since it's a scale 8 along with our scale 1, we now have the means to run and freely pendulum summon out the monsters in our hand or in our X deck, which combined with the means of eventually putting Azalthus back into the X deck means that we most likely will have an OTK on the following turn. And that's going to do it for our Metaphos deck profile. Honestly, out of all the decks that I've done on this channel, I'd say that Metaphos is the one that might have the most potential. Self-destruction continues to be one of the most rarely used but most broken mechanics in the game, and given the fact that all the Metaphos pendulum monsters have that effect, it's very easy to eventually find some way to abuse it to do some pretty crazy things. And I definitely think that while my build is one option that we can take, there's a lot of other paths that this deck can go that another player in the right hands can do really well with. Regardless, my name is Tony Yang, this has been a Metaphos deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time.